Yeah.
And so yeah, is there some other questions, or anybody want to chime in on
But I
anything
had
there?
one more question,
Uh-huh.
Spira. Um, are all mucus forming foods acidic, or are all acidic forming foods mucus forming? Um,
Well, there's, I
or,
mean, yeah, I mean that's a good question, because that term can sometimes be kind of confusing, where you say, well, acid forming.
yeah.
What we're referring to is something that breaks down into different types of acid in the body after digestion. So so yes, there's acids in fruits, but those acids become alkaline when you eat them. When they go through the digestion process, they become sweet. They don't become sticky and nasty and hard. And the best way that you can really, where that can become self-evident, or you could do an experiment to see that, is think about if you take a piece of chicken and you were to put it in a pan and you cook it for like an hour, and you put a handful of grapes in a pan with a little water and you cook that for an hour, and compare the two, compare the consistency. That chicken basically boils down into this viscous, really nasty pus. This fermenting, well, that's not fermented yet, maybe, but like this rotting, nasty gook. And this stuff does not eliminate well in the human body at all. And it is on its way to becoming pure acid. And that's the acid forming aspect of that. So basically, all mucus forming foods, at some level, if they remain undigested and they remain uneliminated in the body, they decompose into acid, whereas fruit remains alkaline. But even fruit, if you're constipated, and this is a problem with some people, where they'll be real constipated and then they want to try to eat a bunch of fruit and then they get sick. It's because you're constipated. The fruit couldn't eliminate. You just basically put a ton of fruit on top of a ton of mixed chicken and hot dog and all kinds of whatever, and that's going to create this nasty combination and this fermenting mess that is really going to be acid. So even the fruit in an unclean body that can't eliminate properly can turn really nasty if it just sits up in there. And I don't know if there's a video I made where there's this prison where they make alcohol, this prison Pruno, prison beer, where they take some kind of fruit and juice, and they take an old sweat sock and they put it there and they sit it under the prison cot for like a week, and it basically ferments. The same process as wine and beer, but they're doing it with what they have available to them in a prison, and but they do it out of fruit, and it basically ferments and turns into this alcohol that really gets people drunk. So that process can actually happen in the body if the stuff can't eliminate. There's been reports of people that did not drink any alcohol, but they went and ate a bunch of wheat, and that wheat didn't really digest properly, and when they blew a breathalyzer, they were super drunk, and so that's just an example of, if this stuff does not digest properly, you can have a lot of acid-based problems.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that made a lot of sense. But like you said, if these mucus forming foods leave an acid ash in the body, and like for most of these foods like meats, our bodies also have to produce acid to digest it. right?
Right. Right.
So if we continue to eat like mucus forming foods, high proteins, especially from animal products, and our body keep producing excess acids, and these acids are left back in the lining of the stomach and the intestine, the how do you say, the large and small
Intestine.
intestines. Yeah. Um, is it is it safe to say that if we practically clean out the body of excess acids, we wouldn't even have these so-called hunger pangs or whatever,
Exactly. Yep.
right?
Right. Yeah. I mean that, and that's
Bingo.
basically what I was. Yeah. Bingo. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I
Yeah.
was kind of getting at before, where I don't experience hunger in the way that I used to, where because in a sad person's standard diet, basically every couple hours that person is getting hungry to eat something, so they get up and they might be up for like who knows 15 minutes before they're chugging down coffee or something, and then they might get in the shower, then here comes eggs and bacon and toast. At least that's the American fare. I know I have been to Europe, and the European breakfast when I was there was much a little bit more rational, was more scantily. But if somebody does have that big type of breakfast, then a couple hours later they're hungry again. And why is that? Because all the acids that were on the wall of the intestines from having been sleeping are now getting on, or had been like maybe eating at whatever, breaking down the last thing you ate. When you get up in the morning, it's like, ah, man, this acid. And that's why breakfast even developed the way it did. And so you basically want to eat something that all these acids can start to chew on. And so that's where you have the big breakfast, and now these acids can chew on something. So you feel good for a couple hours. Then here you start to feel it again, that hunger pangs. And it's like, ah, man, I'm hungry. So now you eat lunch, and you have whatever you have for lunch. And then a couple hours later again, it's, ah, man, the hunger pangs are back again. And you eat again. And then it gets to the point now where I know here in America, some of the fast food restaurants are advertising like 4th and 5th meals for the day. I think that was Taco Bell just had a thing where they're like, get your 4th meal, at the evening meal. And they're, it's this marketing campaign, but that's pretty much how people really don't just eat 3 meals. I mean, they're eating 4 and 5 meals because they're not really thinking about that late night, midnight stop at Burger King and White Castle and, the drunken pizza stop and Taco Bell and stuff. And those are like these extra meals. But yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit that right on the head. That's as you eliminate that acid, and it gets dangerous and that's why a lot of people, if they don't transition properly and they get some kind of craving, but they've already done a lot of cleansing, but they really didn't deal with some of those cravings, whether it was psychological or physical, and they fall back to some of those foods, it can be devastating because you don't have the acid to deal with that anymore. So you go back to meat, and it's like, I mean, there's been people that's died from that, where they get too far into a fast, and that's what happens. I've seen some of the folks that have tried to do those, like the 40-day and 30-day water fast and stuff, without having transitioned, and yeah, they feel great during the fast, and they might overcome some ailments, but psychologically and physically, they really haven't transitioned themselves out of the pus or the mucus forming foods, and they get a craving, or they think like, wow, I'm feeling good. Because I know what actually happens to me is, and I had to work real hard on this, I would associate feeling good with wanting to stuff myself, because that's what I used to do growing up. It would be like, oh, you win a football game, or you win a soccer game, or you graduate, or any celebration revolved around stuffing myself with my favorite nasty foods. And I still will have that feeling will still sometimes come in, and I might be, and I tried to redirect that to fasting, where when I have that feeling of like feeling real good, I want to just keep fasting, or I just want to start a fast or something. But I'll still, it's interesting because it's still there. It's like there's this propensity to something happens that makes me feel good, and it's kind of like, yeah, I could go eat something, yeah, you know, and it's crazy, but it's the way we're wired, you know, the way we're hardwired, and the way our addiction rolls. And so yeah, does that answer that?
Yeah, great points. Thanks.